And I'm so sad. This is another thing. Sony just announced that they're currently working on 12 games that are games as a service because that's making all the money now. Like like games that are like aren't complete and they're constantly things like Destiny and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But like how people just want like good games.
Yeah.
Without microtransactions, without everything being like pay to win.
Yeah, they always go like people don't want single player games, and then a single player game comes out
and it sells a million.
Sells a billion.
Yeah.
It's like Star Wars
God
came
of
up.
War, Last of Us.
Yeah.
Last of Us 2.
I don't know. I feel like there's enough of everything though. Like you get your God of Wars, you get your Elden Rings, you get your Uncharted, you get all these single player games if you want to do single player games. You get your indie games if you want to do indie games.
Sure.
And then people complain about like the pay to win like microtransaction games, but it's also just like but there's other stuff you can play.
Sure.
You could just go do that instead of
okay.
Not that those things are okay.
Okay.
I'm not saying that those things are okay. I'm just saying the outrage is always just like
okay, I got a
freaking out. Like,
I got a question.
Go play something else.
Wouldn't you rather have Microsoft spend $500 million like they spent on Halo Infinite on a fucking Halo that wasn't just chock full of like microtransactions, like just a solid single player, not no open world bullshit, like just a single player level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 like mission you could select in the mission select. You just play a sick campaign with all your boys, 4-player like co-op's not even in the game, and then you just play a fucking co-op game with all your boys, and then you just play multiplayer like we did back in high school, and that's it. And sure, you can have skins, right? Like Modern Warfare and whatever Black Ops, they had skins, but just
I don't know if you like. Some of what you're saying is somewhat true with the Halo game, but I don't know if you're fully... Because we played a bit of it. Mm-hmm. So first of all, the single-player campaign is actually really good.
Yeah.
It's actually done very, very well.
As good as Halo 1, 2, and 3?
It's something different.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it was done very well for it to be an open-world, first-person shooter game.
Sure.
It was actually done really well. Like, I appreciate that. It's not even because I'm not one of those guys, I know some of you guys are, where like I like them just trying new things. I'm not really that guy.
Okay.
I would have, if it flopped, I would have said what you said.
Okay.
Right? I would have been like, just give me a fucking Halo, like fucking level 1, 2, 3. Stop fucking around. Why you guys fucking? But it was actually good, right? So I appreciate that. With the multiplayer, I think there's a mix of those intentions. They want them, like there's the marketing team or whatever that wants to make it like COD, and then there's the other guys that are like, no, but Halo, this core thing of what Halo is supposed to be. But then I guess I'm hearing a lot of some of these YouTubers they're like, no, we're not catering. They're trying to convince current fans, like, no, we're not catering to just you guys. We're trying to open it up to a broader audience. Mm-hmm. But then it's like, who are these broader audiences? I don't know. It's just like I feel like their shit's confused. There's like too many different ideas going. You know what I mean? And then, but also again with the overhead of like trying to like make Halo big again. Mm-hmm. It's got to get back to as big as it used to be. Mm-hmm. You know, it's just they don't really. They kind of running with their head off a little bit. You know, they're trying to just okay, we'll make a battle royale, and then like microtransactions.
But that's what I'm scared of is that like with everything going Game Pass day one, they're not making billions on sales.
I think there's an argument too if it's done. It like to me everything always comes down to like the intention of like what people are doing, because there's strategies where you like. Games as a service can work very well, obviously.
Warzone,
right? There's lots of well, I mean, for the consumer, I suppose. I don't know. I still don't like the way it works. It's like because all the new guns become meta, and then you're like, well, fuck, do I have to buy the battle pass / buy the game to level up the fucking weapon so I can just unlock it? They're like, no, you can still unlock it even if you don't buy the game. Yeah, I want to spend 10,000 fucking hours unlocking the stupid fucking gun. Mm-hmm. Fuck you, right? Like, but I'm just saying, like, so when I think of like the developers, I guess, like the people that make the games. It's like sometimes I can see it being like a hard investment or sell. It's like same with Hollywood kind of thing, like to come up to a studio or like whatever. You come with this game and it's such a big risk. You put it like Kingdoms of Amalur, wherever you heard that one. Yeah. How like they made such a huge investment in this game with Peter Molyneux, whatever, and then so much money, and then to them it flopped, even though by a normal game standards it did really well. Mm-hmm. But because they put so much money into it, it flopped based on how much they put in, right? But games as a service potentially could allow you to like it's like the Netflix thing sort of, but obviously Netflix has its own problems. But like where you can test an idea of a game or whatever, and then developers can try that without the risk of like, oh, that game flopped. We put so much money into this one game that's supposed to sell blockbuster numbers, and then it flops. So then we're, whereas games as a service allows you to like, well, okay, you're getting paid either way, hopefully, as long as you're working on something. You know what I mean? I'm sure there's some standards there of like you should be working on something, but you can test the game without it. Like even if it flops, at least the rest of the other games are supporting it because it's the service. They're paying for the service. They're not paying for this one game. You know what I mean? If you don't buy the game, then the game flops. If you buy the game, then it does okay. But if it's games as a service, it's like the Game Pass. I don't know if that's that's kind of what I was talking about, right? Is like everybody's paying for the Game Pass regardless. So like even if the game doesn't do well, it's like, okay, well that game just didn't do well. Everybody's paying for the Game Pass, but you know. So there's a way to do it in certain ways, but that's what I was saying is like it's just the intention of who's doing these things, and how you're employing the strategies. You know what I mean?
In a perfect world, I would agree with you that like game and service are a fucking like great addition to like.
I was saying like if the intentions are right.
Yeah, but I'm saying is in the world that we live in, it's like those games make all like fucking. If you look at the pie chart, like a majority of the money is like the Fortnites, the fucking Warzones, the this, the that. Like it's so much on like cosmetics, microtransactions. It's like in the billions.
But okay, so is your problem that it's taking away money from other games?
Yeah, so like games that would have back in the day been multiplayer and single player, right? Regardless of franchise, like even just new IPs.
Yeah.
Instead of that, we have companies trying to make fucking Anthem and what's the newest one that just flopped?
Anthem 2?
No. There's Anthem by EA, and then there's another one. Like Assassin's Creed.
Diablo? I know Diablo on
No,
phone was like horrible.
that's the mobile. But like Assassin's Creed, it's called Assassin's Creed Infinite, not Infinite. Assassin's Creed, whatever. But they have all like 16 studios working on it.
Yeah.
And it's just gonna be a games as a service game. It doesn't have a fucking story. And I'm just like, well, then I'd not even. Like you saw it with Origins, with Valhalla, with Odyssey. Like it got more and more like less about the story, less about assassins. Now it's not even. It's just you're just fucking a Viking. It's just Assassin's Creed is just stamped on to sell units, but the new one doesn't even like. There's no story. It's just a game as a service, and I was just like, oh, well, that means that the franchise that I love is officially gone because this just makes more money for them, and so they're like, yeah, fuck this, and so. I'm okay with games as a service, but Sony has whatever, like X amount, let's just say 10 single-player games in development, but they came out and said, hey, we're spending $3.6 billion.
I think your biggest problem is like, or like one of the issues that you're bringing up is because of the lack of respect they have for the IPs because of the core of their, like, profit.
Yeah.
Right? So we can Halo's big. We can make added service.
Yeah.
And then for us as the fans, we're like, but like Halo.
Yeah. No. But that is me. Like I fucking.
Right?
But there's also there's like COD is like, and they're pretending that they're kind of doing it. I don't know how much I think they are, but whatever. The model of we have games as a service separate from. You still can buy the full game with a full campaign and whatever. So if that's done in the most idealistic way, you don't have any problems.
No problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then it's mostly like the developers.
It's funds being taken away from potentially great games. Like imagine if Microsoft dropped a Gears of War. Yeah. Not a Gears of War, but like a game that changes the fucking the way we look at video games.
Or here's another good one. I think that was done in a pretty good example. Is the Final Fantasy series, how they came out with 14, and that was their like World of Warcraft.
Yeah, they're all.
But they keep making iterations of the same thing that they always.
Right, the single player, like Final Fantasy 16 is coming out.
Yeah.
Single player.
Yeah,
fucking, like it's. And
if only they can make those games good though.
Yeah, but Final Fantasy, like
Noxus.
7 Reunion, remake Reunion, right?
I don't know.
The next one.
The newest one.
Yeah, Reunion, right? So as the team is going on, Tetsuya Nomura, the director, he's still doing his shit, while Square Enix is like, okay, well, here, give $100 million to make this. But I'm like Sony, who's been primarily a movie studio, right, making Last of Us and Uncharted and games that sell in the 15, 20 million because the player base loves those games. When you announce that you're spending billions on double-digit games as service games, but your entire audience, that's why all the flack on Twitter and it was trending worldwide.
But I think it's similar to like just basic human nature of like NFTs. or like whatever. It's like people like when they see money, people just like.
Yeah.
Yo, you know anything about it? Yo, I'll give you your money and you can invest for me and shit. Like stocks. Yo, give me
the
like
market
whatever.
Directs itself. So like you'll see these games fail, or even remember when Star Wars Battlefront came
Marvel Avengers. That's the one that flopped.
That was
Square Enix.
Yeah.
So it's Anthem and the Square Enix.
Was that a
Avengers?
game of service?
That was a game of
It
service.
was.
I
And it
didn't
was
pay attention
shit.
to it
They
at all.
didn't.
It was absolutely.
They didn't pay homage to the Avengers at all. You played as like Miss Marvel too, and like they marketed it terribly.
And then because of that game, a
Yeah.
great game, Guardians of the Galaxy, which is a single player game, suffered.
Oh.
It's
And
true.
then it sold.
Apparently that game did.
I heard it was
It's
really
great.
good.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying.
really
But
good.
because they had just dropped Avengers like
Yeah.
literally 3 months before,
Yeah.
and everyone's like, ugh. And then Guardians came out, and it was like Square Enix, Crystal Dynamics, like the whole team like loved it. They poured all the heart and soul. They like followed the comics. It's like fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Great scores, and it flopped because everyone was like, well, fuck.
But that's not a money thing. It's a reputation thing.
But it's because they went after the money thing.
Yeah.
But the Guardians of the Galaxy game was still good. The
No,
Guardians of the Galaxy game didn't fail because it was bad. It failed because the game that came before it was
Yeah, that's
bad.
what
Was,
Brats saying.
that's what I'm saying. So I'm saying is because Square Enix went and put their money into something because they wanted to cash in on the games as a service. They brought out a shit game way before they should have. Then everyone saw
So
it.
then it goes back to what he said. It's the tension of making sure that the actual game as a service game is good.
Yeah, but I'm saying is everyone like that's the thing is right now the whole industry wants to fucking make money.
yeah.
It's
Also,
all about shareholders at the
They
end of the
chose
day.
like a really shitty like it's a good IP, but it's not a good IP to do that games of service thing because everyone wants a fucking. We watch Marvel movies because we want the story.
Story,
They
yeah.
didn't give us the fucking story. They gave us the shit. Like you had to keep playing. The,
Fight the same robots like
over
just
and over. It was,
Was it
bullshit.
that bad? I didn't know it was
Yeah,
that
it
bad.
was
They,
horrendous.
they also had these. This is a tangent, but they had these.
Square Enix sold
it was like quick time events, but you can literally leave. It wasn't a quick time event. You can leave it, and they would just be paused the entire time until you hit the button. So I watched this streamer, and he just like left it for a whole hour on that one frozen still, the guy jumping, and he just like looked at his phone the whole time, like because it was just the dumbest idea. Like it was bad.
Did it make money or it lost?
It lost so much money. Square Enix sold them off. Square Enix sold off
The studio that made it? Or?
all their studios, all their Western studios. They just sold like last week or 2 weeks ago. They sold it all to Embracer Studios. So they sold off the Hitman IP, Tomb Raider, Crystal Dynamics. They sold them all off. Eidos. Square Enix owns Crystal Dynamics, Eidos, and one of the other ones.
But can an argument be made that like so for Final Fantasy VII, the remake and the new one that's coming out, the reason
16?
they can put as much money as they are putting into it is because Final Fantasy XIV is doing very well. Like it's making enough money for them to do these sides.
They literally sold like the studios at like a loss. They sold it for like
no,
200
but
mil.
they wouldn't make the game if they didn't have the money to make the game. You know what I mean? Like that money's coming from somewhere.
Yeah.
Isn't the money coming from a consistent flow of revenue into
Correct.
the company?
Yes.
At the end of the day,
Yes.
so I think
So they're using their World of Warcraft, and they're pimping that out because it's a
get-
good game to make money.
Yes.
And instead of spending that money on single player games that people love, they're a $1 billion company because of these single player games, these fantasy RPG games.
Yeah.
So instead of making the shit that people actually wanted, they're like, oh look, NFTs and fucking games as a service. Let's make that, and they made it, and it was shit, and it flopped, and they sold off all their studios because of like this one. They were like, oh well, we don't even want the Western. Like they're like Embracer, have it. Here's like for 250 million, 300 million. They just sold it off everything like that. Like the Tomb Raider IP, I was so surprised that they sold that to. I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, but I think it goes back to like I think you're just. I get it too. I feel the same way like when
You're scared.
they don't like respect the IPs
Mm-hmm.
the way that fans respect them. It's like the Dragon Ball movie.
Yeah.
You're like, yo, what the fuck were you guys doing?
Yeah.
Right. And then what was the other thing I was gonna say?
This is the market correcting itself because those things flop, and then they learn and they have to do like a single player. That's like fucking. Remember when EA was like they canned the original the single player Star Wars game?
1667 or whatever.
Yeah.
And then they made Fallen Order.
And then
Yeah.
Battlefront
So
like had such a backlash because it was garbage at the beginning.
Yeah.
And then Star
But
Wars.
I would
And
also
then they
say-
finally they made a what was it
Fallen Order.
Fallen Order, and
And
then
it's
people
fucking
it's like
phenomenal.
this is what we fucking wanted,
Yeah.
like finally. So
Yeah.
like
And sold 10 million units.
yeah.
But I think you also have to be careful about when you say like the games that people want, because you admit this too, right? It's like there are some games that are executed well, games of service
course,
or
yeah,
not,
yeah.
that people do like. They're probably not the loudest people. They just play the games and they enjoy them. But the voices you hear are the people crying,
Yeah.
like me,
Cry
maybe
foul.
being
Yeah, yeah.
like, "Fucking Halo, that's not what my Halo was,"
yeah.
or whatever
Same,
kind of
yeah.
thing, right? So you hear those voices, but I think there's a lot of games that do really well, maybe as games of service, maybe not, or whatever it is,
Yeah.
but you don't hear them as much. So just saying, like the games that people want, you have to be very careful about what that is. But I get it, like at the core of it, like the intention of like just trying to make money and then just trying to chase these things. It's the same thing like we say with everything, like human nature, right? Like NFTs and back in the day, like search engines and internet stuff, like people just jumping
I think-
up things.
I think
It's
Zach-
GME, right? Like
It's usually by the time they're chasing it, it's already going down.
I think Zach is correct. The market, like I'm sad because Sony's putting in money where they could make great games, single player games because I'm a single player guy, or multiplayer games because I love multiplayer. But they're putting into these games of service, and I know that 1 or 2 or maybe 3 will hit.
But the games of service do have.
They do. They have value.
Like no. I mean, like that's not a type of game. Like in the sense of like there's multiplayer games that are games
of service.
Like
yeah,
that's a thing. It's a design for income,
it's a template.
I suppose.
It's a template for game building.
I wouldn't, but I wouldn't like when I say like what type of game are you making? If I say games of service, that's like one element of it, but I don't immediately have a picture of like what I'm doing in the game.
Oh no!
You know what
I'm
I
saying
mean?
is games of service is a game that adds content as time goes on, whereas I like a fully fleshed out game that I'm buying.
That's like thought.
If it's a free to play, then it's different. If it's a Fortnite or Warzone, 100%.
Right,
I'm not paying money. But if you're spending $79.99 on Marvel,
I mean, what do you think about a game that is a game that is like fully done, fleshed out, whatever, and then they continue adding stuff after that?
Like if you bought original Modern Warfare.
that's Halo Infinite.
Are we talking like DLC, or are we talking like they just continue updating?
Or no, like if you
it?
bought Modern Warfare, like
Okay.
the original, like the new Modern Warfare that came
Okay.
out. It has a
Single
campaign,
player,
Yeah.
it has multiplayer.
Yeah.
It introduced Warzone afterwards.
Yeah.
You paid $80 for the first
Yeah.
batch of it.
Yes.
Warzone comes afterwards to make all the fucking money in the
Yeah,
world, right? Is there something wrong with that?
No,
'Cause that's a
nothing.
game's...
Yeah. No. That's a fully fleshed out game, and so, but
So
like
you want them to respect the IP and finish their games.
Yeah, just like a complete game. I just don't
Yeah,
want them to fuck it
Well,
up.
the thing is,
What if the
those
complete
are
game
two
shit?
separate things too. They gave him the game he wanted, and then they came out with the service game or whatever
Afterwards.
But you're
So-
okay with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's like they gave me Final Fantasy 13, and then they're like, "Here's Final Fantasy 14." Not that Final Fantasy 13 was good, but
Yeah. No, but I'm saying is it's the fact that there's like they announced that they're spending $1 billion on these 12 games, like in their thing to shareholders, and I'm like, oh, that's $1 billion that could have gone to great stories and like games that I would have shed tears over or whatever, right? Like and that's because Sony has shown that for 25 years they can pull on my heartstrings with The Last of Us and Uncharted and the God of War.
But are those games of service that they're making, are they going to have fully fleshed out games attached to them? Are you paying $80 for a game and then getting the game service on top?
That I don't know.
So if you get that, isn't that what you want?
Sure, but
Okay.
but I'm saying is what you're talking in like a perfect world. Chances are it's not going to be no fucking perfect single player, multiplayer. I don't know, and that's why I'll like Kurt said, I'll just leave it and see what happens. And like Zach said, the market will correct itself. Games will cannibalize games, and games will flop.
Because I think what we're getting at kind of is it's not necessary. It doesn't seem like from what we're getting at, it's not necessarily like games as a service that itself is the problem. Do you know what I mean? It's more about like all these things that we're talking about outside of that. They don't respect the IP.
Yeah, it's money grubbing.
They're giving you an unfinished game. They're charging you too much, whatever. All these
money
other things. But the idea of games as a service isn't necessarily
it's not intentionally
the problem.
Yeah, it's not.
Right?
It could be great.
Yeah.
It's just you're expecting people that love money and just want more money to do the right thing, and sometimes they do.
Because
most of the time they
you can
don't.
see in this other world, random's going to make up a hypothetical world where, like, let's say single player games are doing really fucking well, right? And they just put so much money, and like they force developers to keep making a bunch of these single player games to the point where we're like, yo, these are trash. Like these guys,
they
are just
run out of
making,
ideas. Like,
they're just making a bunch of these. It's
time.
like Uncharted, but like kind of different. But like really, we're like, this is a knockoff Uncharted kind of thing, right? And then you're like, I wish they would just stop making these fake ass single player games trying to rip off fucking Uncharted and Halo and shit like that. Which I'm sure there was a time where there's lots of games that have been made that are kind of like that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It's not like that's not the problem. That's what I'm saying. It's the intention, right? Because that's where the intention is wrong. Where they're like they don't even care what the game is. Just can you make it like Halo? You know what I mean? Like, can you make like Uncharted kinda because it's made money, so they're chasing that because of that. You know what I mean? But that's what you're saying because right now it's games of service is the thing that people are chasing. Same thing like NFTs aren't inherently bad. Yeah, it's when people are like, yo, hook me. Do you know anything?
That's it. I just want whatever it is.
How much can
how much money can we make?
And
so Square Enix even said that they're like games are in development right now that are centered around NFTs, and I'm like, I don't know. So
there's a little, we have a little like,
so I'm just like, I don't know if this is like where, and that's the thing. It's like I hope, right, and I don't even have to hope because Zach is right. The market will fucking decide.
Nerds are not easy to appease. That's a difficult
market. Like fucking what is it? CD Projekt Red. They were worth like $1.5 billion before Cyberpunk dropped. And then their stock fucking dropped by like 3/4.
Well, that's because they fucked up Cyberpunk.
But but that's the thing.
You know what's
you hoped for the best.
Yeah.
But they didn't come through.
Yeah.
And so because of that, nerds are hard to fucking appease.
But you know what's interesting in that conversation about like unfinished games like that, like Cyberpunk, is like one is like games of service could maybe like alleviate that in a different way because you're thinking like, okay, well the game. It reminds me of Steam Early Access, which is a good system because the expectation of the game, from what I know, I don't know much about it, but like when you hear early access, like beta or something like that, right? You're like, okay, this is an unfinished game. I am buying or investing, or maybe it's free, whatever it is. But when I start playing this game, I know it's not gonna be a complete game, and I'm prepared. It's called early access, so I'm okay with that. Yeah. You know what I mean? But I get it when they come out with like
CD Projekt Red are
it's the opposite, right? Of like, well,
they literally put pre-orders knowing the game wasn't like finished, not in a good state, not ready to ship, but they had already put a release date out. They're like, oh, we have to get our shareholders. Like that's the thing, when so much money and oversight's involved, like the developers are like, oh fuck, we can't. And then there's like all this shit on Reddit about crunch and this and that.
You hear those stories about a lot.
Yeah, and the studio
Destiny with Activision.
Yeah,
right. Bungie and Activision.
I heard those
right. No Man's Sky.
Yeah, like God of War, Last of Us 2, Halo Infinite. Like when they showed it,
like I didn't do the
Craig
research
and all that stuff, and they had to like the fucking head.
Like I didn't do the research, but I hear that's why like Bungie broke their whatever 10-11 year contract with Activision, because that probably something like that happened where Activision's like, come on, just get it out. It's like they're like, we're only gonna have one Destiny and like just keep improving. Like no, Destiny 2, Destiny 2, let's go, come on.
And so
where's the money?
Yeah, right? but that's
Destiny 3.
That's
make it like COD, Destiny 4, 5, 6.
That's the scariest thing.
Then we'll remake Destiny 1.
Yeah.
Right?
That's the scariest thing though, is money drives, and CD Projekt Red literally were the golden child of the games industry.
To The
Witcher, they had everything. Like they had that little, I forget the game inside The Witcher, but it's like the chess.
But that's what I'm saying is like games as service or like a Game Pass type service thing can potentially, again, if it's used in the right way, it can alleviate the...
No, Game Pass is a phenomenal idea.
Like the pressure of like, we need to get this game out fast and make it sell and whatever, is like, it can potentially be like, hey, like, get it out when you can, but it's a pass. People are paying for the pass.
But the only difference is with Game Pass, you look at all these games, not the indie ones, you look at all these bigger games, and there is some sort of microtransaction season like the need to,
but
that's how you're gonna make money.
But as players or whatever gamers, we're sensitive to where, like, obviously, for example, one thing is people hate pay to play.
Yeah.
Right. People are all the outrage, and justifiably so. But that's where, like Zach was saying, like the market will correct itself, like that, those type of things. Which again goes back to what I was saying. I always think about this with almost all of these types of conversations with anything. It's the intention. Right, it's like, what are they trying to really do? Maybe they might try to pretend like, oh no, we're gonna give you a full game, or like, oh no, it's not gonna be this. But slowly over time, you're gonna be like, no, this could be bullshit. Like, this is kind of bullshit. Like, you really want me to pay for this, don't you? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it happens all the time.
But I'm sure there are some instances where there's some. It's like I really like Supergiant Games, is that indie studio, and they made Hades, they made Bastion and Transistor and stuff like that.
Those games win Game of the Year sometimes.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't believe Hades won Game of the Year. I mean, I played a bit of it. It was really good, but I don't know.
But it's not Game of the Year.
I don't know. It wasn't my I didn't.
Fair.
But I know how much effort. As soon as you play it, the first 20 minutes, you're like, they put their hearts in this.
Yeah.
You can tell. Dude, the voice acting, everything. Dude, they tried. They really love their game.
There is a game that you should download legally called Kenna Bridge.
Yes, I saw that.
I bought it,
and it was akin to the GameCube days and stuff.
Legit, it's made by 7 dudes.
Yeah, it's
fucking phenomenal.
It looks great. Yeah,
it literally looks like an anime, and I'm like, what the hell? How the hell? But then they're all dudes from Pixar and stuff like that. They work in the thing, but. Apparently the rumblings are Sony, the sales are well enough, and Sony
they're gonna buy them and make them make a games of service, and then the microtransactions,
and then all of it's ruined. All by Kenna 2, bring it out. I want Kenna, and then we remake Kenna 1 in 5 years. No, but I'm just saying, man.
It makes you sad to hear that Sony's putting that type of money
towards shit where I'm like, well, that your fan base clearly bought millions and millions and millions of units of these games. They clearly like these games, right? Your multiplayer and your single player. I'm like, can you just put a couple $100 million into games as a service? Maybe even $500 million, right? But this is an excessive amount, because that's at least $500 million for single player / multiplayer games. That's 5 solid games.
Did they say they're giving $0 to single player /
No, they're not. They're obviously giving a shit ton of money.
It's just what do you
extra,
the people at the top.
Yeah.
It's what do you value?
Money.
Kind of thing. You know what I mean? And then that's what we're saying. That's where. But I feel that's the core of where all of these things are coming from. All these uneasiness, all these issues. Right? Whereas there's some instances, we're saying with Kenna and Supergiant Games, and in some instances, I think, with Zelda, they're like, hey, it's okay. Take your time with Zelda. You know what I mean? Hey, make a good game. Or Rockstar with Grand Theft Auto. I know you hate Nintendo.
No, not me. No, I love Nintendo. No, I was gonna say is I feel the only reason that Nintendo, Shigeru Miyamoto, the only reason he allows the teams to take forever on Mario games.
Pokemon every year?
No. Okay. Is because they need that game to fucking hit.
Yeah, because
they release one fucking Zelda every 73 years. And so, what was the last one? Skyward Sword?
No, it was Breath of the Wild.
Oh, sorry. Breath of the Wild? Yeah. And that was, 2018?
I think they did try to release... I think they slowly, with some of these IPs...
Yeah, 4 years ago. The next one's coming out in another year. So it's 5 years. That's almost one a gen.
Nintendo has strong IPs, and they continue to sell them at the same price forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think they know... to me, and this is an ideal image that I have of them, because I don't know. I'm not the guy behind whatever, but... they trust the team, and they're valuing the quality of the game that could come out if they give them that. It's kind of like the Grand Theft Auto, right? Or they take forever, but when it comes out, how many times has Grand Theft Auto 5 or whatever been remade and re-released and just because just so much in there, people always they talk. It's legendary, right? People are talking they're still discovering things. You just go on the little trolley they have a tour trolley that goes around the whole city. And they even have the person telling you doing the tour that's voiced, the person here, if you look to our right here, you're gonna. They have that, and then there's music, and there's just so much in there. Yeah. But again,
I would hope it is.
but from the top, it's what do the people in charge at the top value, right? And if they value games and the quality of games, and they trust the teams, you know what I mean. That's what we want.
Yes.
Right, whether it is a games of service or whatever it is,
I have no problem with I have no problem with games of service. I have no problem with single player games. I have no problem with multiplayer games. It's the thing about games of service is so far in its history, because it's literally been in the last handful of years.
There's more flops but it's the same thing with NFTs. It's there's right
it's very fucking
everybody's
and so I'm just
every time you hear it you're
exactly. And so
how many times someone these days you're gonna hear someone actually I started an NFT project with my and you're okay all right
legit. And so whenever I hear Square Enix go a majority of our games are gonna be games as a service, and we have a couple of games that are designed around NFTs, I'm like, you sold all your single
Or
player
like
studios.
back in the day where they're like,
This
yeah,
is
like
what we're doing
I'm really into stocks. I invested in GME and you know like that got BlackBerry and stuff. Like, yeah, I really know all the things about it. Like, oh, I hope you do, because that's fucking, you know, really like.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's just I'm scared, but Zach put me at ease because he's like,
yeah, it might take forever though.
Whatever
for the
happens.
market to correct
No, this
itself.
always happens. Like like everyone copies like the thing that's making a bunch of money. Fortnite comes out, they all try to make their own, and then a lot of them fail. Some of them hit. Like Warzone's so
there's
big.
only enough players
Yeah.
for so many games as a service.
Yeah.
So it'll just cannibalize itself.
There's 150 players in a closing zone.
Correct.
And the market will correct itself because there'll only be left.
The final circle.
Yeah.
It's 4 teams. And those will be the games as a service that last.
No, that's why I like it. It's weird to see the direction Sony's going in because they killed it with PS4.
Yeah.
And now they actually do have real competition again. Xbox is kind of doing some of the right things.
Yeah.
They bought some pretty big studios like Bethesda.
Jim Ryan, you could tell is 100% the new head. You could tell he's 100% a business guy.
Yeah.
The second he got in, he's like, yo, everything's going to PC. He's like, all PC games, and
it didn't make sense before. I never understood why they were ever separated.
Because how do you sell hardware? You sell it because you have exclusives.
Exclusives, yeah.
But if you put your exclusives on the PC, then people... I get the idea behind it. It actually works really well if you have a year or 2 delay, because then people will still buy your hardware because they want to play the game immediately. Like the Last of Us 3, and then you wait a year, and the guys that were like, fuck the PlayStation, I'm not buying it, but I really want to play that game, they're going to buy it on the PC.
Yeah.
Right? Like God of War sold 2 million units, whatever.
Yeah.
Which is great. I have no problem with that. But if you do day and date, I'm like, it's like, what's the point of owning a PS5? Right? And so, but Jim Ryan put everything on PC. Now Sony actually just dropped their newest line. Sony created a brand called InZone, which is just PC hardware. PC monitors, headsets, all that. So they're going all in on PC. And so I get where the games as a service is coming in, especially if you have cross-platform between PC and PS5 and stuff like that. But Jim Ryan is 1,000,000% a fucking suit. Like, compared to all the guys before, like Andrew House and all these guys, they were like, yeah, you know, we're like putting a bunch of money in this. He's like, nah, dude, we're buying Bungie for some absurd amount of money.
Like $1 billion.
Is it 1.5 billion or something? And literally just to help with games as a service games. And they get to do whatever they want.
Yep.
Like, Sony can't even tell them what to do. They literally bought them just to be like, hey, just make whatever you want.
Yeah.
We'll collect money from it. We won't tell you anything, but also we need your help to help our teams. Yeah. And so I'm just like, you spent fucking God knows how much money. Mm-hmm. You could have bought, like, wasn't it like all the studios, like, just imagine all the studios you could buy with it. But that's what I'm saying. It's like, that's what he wants to do. That's what he wants to do. But it's scary for me because I've been growing with this company since I was 5 years old, and I'm 30 now, right? And for 25 years, I've played on the PS1, the PS2, the PS3, the PS4, now the PS5, and I've played their exclusives, and they make all the franchises that I like, and they're like, oh, we love that too, except we're going to spend $1 billion on this other stuff. Yeah, I think I just might have to.
You might have to.
I might do that. If Jim Ryan's at the head, no, I'm just kidding.
No, I'm a PC guy. You get everything.
But yeah, but that's
like
now.
You sail the high seas, okay?
PC Master Race.
Yeah, like back in the day when people used to yell PC
Steam
Master Race.
early access.
When people used to yell PC Master Race, I used to laugh because I'm like, bro, PC gamers wish they could play the games that Xbox and like PlayStation had. But now they literally.
But I think even then they could just download them.
The PlayStation exclusive? No.
You can find a way. There's always a way.
It's a little difficult.
No,
it was harder
before,
it's hard, like emulation and all that stuff.
It was like you could play to like 4 frames a
But
second.
it's because games have progressed so far that they're basically all
PCs
level
now,
games.
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So it's like.
But now it's like they don't even need to emulate anything. They'll just release the game itself on Steam and Epic Store. But
yeah, exactly.
But it's crazy, man. Like I'm just like, yeah, like PC now is like when if someone was to PC Master Race, I'd be like, yeah, you are. Like it is. I just pray and hope that Jim Ryan doesn't do Sony dirty or like PlayStation dirty and drop exclusives at the same time. Because then I'd be like, what the fuck did I even spend $600 on a PS5 for? Like, I would be like, oh, well, you could have told me that. I would just got a sick PC if we were going to just drop fucking day one releases. Yeah. I'll feel cheated out of spending money on their system. But like an Xbox Series X, I was thinking of grabbing one, but I'm like, oh no, I'll just grab a PC. Because you can get Game Pass Ultimate on PC and play all the games. And I was like, okay, well.
The only thing with PCs is they get old.
Yeah.
Whereas consoles, all they have is updates.
Yeah.
They don't. You have to upgrade your console.
That's the one thing I like. That's the one thing I like about consoles. Is just
and you don't have to think about the parts.
Yeah, just 8 years.
They have the Pro.
Yeah,
come out a couple of years later.
Yeah, but I'm saying is like even if,
but in general, they're gonna make it optimized.
It's
for
funny because with Sony, like the later iterations are always worse than the first iteration. Generally, like PS3, the fat one is better than the new one.
Is that true? I don't
No.
know.
Dude, it could play like PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2.
Yeah.
It could do so much more
Yeah,
shit.
and
then like
that's
that
different.
one,
different,
that's different though. That one cost $1,000. They had to cut out the because they.
I didn't pay $1,000 for it. I have it.
What?
I didn't pay $1,000.
Did you buy it at launch or did you buy it like on Craigslist?
I didn't buy on Craigslist.
What did you buy?
I bought not at launch, but I bought it like not too far after.
Yeah. So how much did you spend for it?
It was like the 80 gig one or 60 gig.
60 gig, yeah.
60 gig. And it's
$6.99.
backwards
Like
compatible. It's like
nothing.
$600 or something.
$6.99
Like
like
half a
Canadian,
game now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
60 gigs.
Yeah,
dude,
but it was better than the later iteration.
It was, but the
PS4 was the same thing. I heard it was like overheating issues with the.
Yeah, but the newer iterations also cost far less. Like when you buy a system at launch, I remember buying my PlayStation 3 at launch for $6.99 for the 60 gig and extra controller and Resistance Fall of Man, and it came to $1,000. And I was fucking 13 years old working at McDonald's. I saved it for like 3 months. At $6.50 an hour at McDonald's because they paid school wage, which is just child labor. They just got away with it. They're like, oh, training school wage.
Yeah, right.
Because your parents had to sign off on a piece of paper. But best purchase I ever made in my life. And I'm so happy I did it. And that's why I hope for the PS5. Like I hope that there's all these exclusives that we can all just play video, like, you know, like these seeing doubles that we do.
What about consoles as service, where they don't give you a fully made console and
you can just
get it
so
part every month?
Yeah.
Slowly updated. Oh, I got a hard drive this month.
Oh, it's only 60 gigs.
Ah, shit.
They're just taking the ones out of the PS3s.
Yeah, right. Also, are they still having issues making PS5s? I heard that.
I mean, they're finally, after 2 years, they're starting to get them back. They're still not in stores.
They were manufacturing more PS4s, I remember.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, what the fuck?
They actually just, you can, for the first time, they're just being released without the bundles.
Wow.
On like Amazon and Costco, but they sell out within a few hours.
Yeah, they do.
But back in the day, you had to like get into queues and stuff on like on EB Games. You had to go into their website or Best Buy, and you had to wait in line for,
buy the console, you mean?
to buy the console, and it had to be in like some weird bundle with like extra controller and blah blah blah.
I remember you'd have to line up for the games. Remember, like, so was it Halo?
Yeah.
Which one did we go like at 12
Oh, those!
for?
Don't you miss that? Halo
I
3?
don't at all.
No?
My favorite thing in the world is being at home and something goes live and then clicking a button and watching
Prime now.
Yeah.
Like,
it's
Prime before.
Okay.
my whole
I don't
thing,
even-
my whole thing is just
Convenience.
get it to
Yeah,
me
yeah,
as
yeah,
fast
yeah.
as fucking possible.
And that's I
That's
totally
it.
understand.
Ronnie Chang.
You,
Yeah.
yeah,
Prime now. Prime now. In
Give
my
me-
mouth.
Give me napkins.
my mouth for me.
Give me napkins. All the napkins. No, I was gonna say is you don't miss waiting in line with a bunch of fucking fans and just being pumped up.
No, I like the
idea.
idea of I get the game and then all my friends also all have the game at the same time, but we're ready to play. Like
I
let's
do
play.
really.
doesn't- yeah.
I miss the
I feel
like.
that nostalgia, though.
Yeah. No, I like going into the store, like EB Game store. Like I miss that feeling because
Yeah.
it's not as much there anymore. It's still
not at all.
Right? It's like how I miss Rogers Video and Blockbuster, like
Blockbuster
going
Video
in,
Update,
where I get to rent a game
Yeah.
and shit like that. Like those are
Sick.
those are
God,
good
going
times.
into the EB game, what is it called now?
Yeah.
Fucking
GameStop?
GameStop is just
Jimmy.
a terrible experience now.
Yeah.
Because they try to fucking get you to buy all this extra shit. You want the insurance on this game? No, I don't fucking want
Oh, yeah.
insurance on the disc. What the fuck are you talking? But
This guy.
if it doesn't work
Sounds
when I
like
take it home, I'm bringing it back and you go replace it. Damn it.
For me, the only plus is that if you have the disc,
Yeah.
you're good. Like you have the disc, you know what I mean? Like you have the physical.
Yeah.
I can play this
I do
whenever I
miss-
want to
Yeah.
play this.
like
If the internet's down, I can still play it.
Versus like downloading, it's like
Yeah.
if my internet's fucked.
You're fine. Yeah, no,
I'm not gonna get to play
I
this
love it
game,
because I
unfortunately.
literally rent every game technically.
No,
Like, I
no,
buy it,
Funko
beat
Pop
it.
dicks.
play it for whatever, like a month, platinum it,
Yeah.
and then I sell it for like $20 less than I bought it
Yeah.
for.
I think GameStop touches just dies. No, I don't want Funko Pop, you piece of shit.
Oh my
I'll be
God.
honest with like some of their like merch, like anime merch and stuff, is like actually put it at a decent price.
Yeah.
It's at a good price. Like I wouldn't mind if they moved into that type of arena.
Yeah.
Selling like nerd stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, well, they have
Dude,
gone
Did
heavy.
you see
into
they made a Nerf made a Galahorn, a Destiny Galahorn, Nerf gun.
Really?
Yeah, you can buy it. It's like $200, but
There's
it's like a
Funko
full on
Pop on the
Galahorn.
couch from Simpsons. I don't fucking need that.
the plastics. They're killing the oceans.
Yeah.
No, I was gonna say is, have any of you guys played Overwatch 2?
It's not out yet, is it?
The beta's out.
I heard that they're just getting rid of Overwatch 1 when this comes out.
Yeah, but it literally looks like fucking Overwatch 1.
Yeah, there's nothing.
It like I mean like
it's like Destiny 2.
Yeah.
like identical. Like it's not even like you tried a little bit.
No, it doesn't even look like prettier.
Games
Also,
as a service.
it used
Really
to be
tried.
Hey, yeah, it's not done yet.
yeah. Oh, Steam Early Access.
Yeah,
Yeah, Steam Early
it
Access.
was 6 players on team, and they made it to 5 with the update.
So
it's like we're gonna also take away a player.
They
So less people can play.
they really serviced that game well.
It's a game service.
That's what games and services now. You take things away.
It's like being like, hey, Warzone 2's coming out, and instead of 150 players, there's like 75. What the fuck?
And if you want to play the 150, you're buy the season pass.
Oh my god.
Just you wait, Kurt.
Only duos.
When that happens, Kurt's
No
gonna be like,
quads.
I see now where we let it. Where
Games
we let
as
it
a
spray.
service is evil.
Evil. Nah. Some are good.
Well,
Anyway,
Anyways,
thanks for tuning in.
yeah.
that was the guys rants.
Brats rants.
Brats rants. Yeah, no, that was literally Brats rants.
Big Ram.
Big rants.
Big rant.
Sliver rig.